Hi, I'm Christy Paleman, and I am the SASH Nurse Consultant.
I'm Amy Perez, the Training Specialist for SASH, and in this video we will be discussing healthy living planning for you and your SASH participants. So here's the mission statement for healthy living planning. The overarching purpose of healthy living planning is to help participants become engaged and empowered in their own wellness through identification of priorities in their life and to help them create a plan on how to achieve those priorities. It's very person-centered. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you meet with your participant is to identify the priorities. There's different opportunities to identify priorities for each participant. You can do casual one-on-one meetings when you're getting to know the person. You can do it during the person-centered interview. There's time during the assessment, after the assessment and the person-centered interview are done, and during group healthy living planning, which sometimes is easier when you can get a lot of participants in one place to work together. This is part of the toolkit, the tools that you can use for healthy living planning. There's the person-centered interviewing tools, the Camden cards, eco maps, the long form of the healthy living plan, and there's a short form as well. Active listening, hearing what they have to say, the group healthy living plan option, or a brief action plan. And we're going to be going through each of these tools together. So there is actually a separate person-centered interview video that you can watch that will go into these tools in more depth. This is the 3 different tools that we use during this process. There is a timeline template, which you will see at the bottom, and that talks about each participant's lifetime and where their satisfaction was with each one of their major life events. There's also a preferences map, what works and what doesn't work, sort of like a pro and con list, but a little bit more detailed and nuanced. And then you'll see a relationships map to help you understand who are the people in your participant's life that are important to them, that are helpful to them, and that could help you build a plan together. There's also the eco map, and there's lots of different versions of this. You can find the instructions in the toolkit on the SASH forum, and there's a couple different models of this. What you're looking at is actually a tool that has the participant in the center, and each one of those little boxes around the participant shows other providers that are in their life that help them with their life. You can do this on a blank piece of paper by drawing circles and writing this yourself, however it might look with the participant. Or you can take this template that we have for you on the forum, and then you can write in each different person and then add arrows to see how they are connected to the participant and then to each other, because often it's a spider web of providers, and this will help you show where all those connections lie. Here's another example of what that eco map might look like, where the participant is in the center and all of their different supports are around them, and you can talk to them through this and how each one of these boxes will be a little trigger for them to remember, oh, these are the people that fit in each one of these areas, so that it can flesh out their whole life, because they are more than just their medical condition, for example. This is a long form of a healthy living plan. It's also in our tools and resources on the forum. It prompts you through everything. So you can see what are the different core areas to address. And this is a multiple page form. So you're seeing just the first page of this. And it addresses each domain of a participant's life. If they don't have the need, like for example on physical activity on that top box, you can just say no. And then if they don't have a need, then you might want to add a strength there, because we always want to be looking at the strengths of our participants. What do they bring to the table? What can they do for themselves as you're talking about what they want to do for their health goals? You want to look at here the SASH Hub resources. What happens on site? Do you have regular meals, community meals that are happening? So that would cover in nutrition. Or what's going on in the community resources? Does the local area agency on aging do a community meal on their site and then help get your participants over there? And then you talk about who is the lead, and then what is the date that you would like to have that completed by. It's very comprehensive, and it addresses a lot more in detail, and it's a nice form to use. Another tool that we use collaboratively with partners around the state are what is called the Camden cards. You may also hear about them as the Rutland cards or the St. Johnsbury cards or the St. Albans cards, but they are all the same idea. They are a picture of the different domains of a person's life, and I will go through a bunch of those pictures. And on the back of each one of those cards, there's text like what's shown on this slide. And for example, to find a doctor that I like. Maybe they don't have a doctor, so that might be a top priority for them. And then different people have different skills and abilities and different literacy levels. So you can either look at the actual picture or you can look at the text on the back that helps flesh out a little bit more of the different reasons why a person might use that card. Here are some more examples of the cards. There's a lot of different ways to look at health and wellness, smoking, education, different ways, health insurances, physical activity and healthy weight. What about medication? Mental health is very important and not always addressed. Healthy pregnancy and delivery. Maybe they might not be the person getting pregnant, but they might have a child or a grandchild that might be living with them who is pregnant. So even if you think it might not be relevant to a SASH participant, it's important to keep these cards all together because you're never really sure what might be important to a person. So these are some more of the social determinants of health, and it really digs deep into a person's whole life. So once you get a lot of that basic information from a person, and it's not just basic, it's also a digging deep of what is important to them, and it gives you a really good picture of who that person is. And then you want to document the priorities that come up through that process. So there's a bunch of different tools that you can use to document those priorities. You can do a SMART goal and action plan, a short form of the Healthy Living Plan, the long form that we've already looked at, a basic scrap of paper, just get it down, a menu of choices, a Healthy Living Planning worksheet, and we'll go through all of those tools now. You have choices. You can use any of these tools. This is a self-management planning worksheet that sets out SMART goals. SMART goals have to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. They have to be able to do it. It has to be something that doesn't feel overwhelming to them. And when you're done with SMART goals, they should have a very high confidence level that they can actually do it. And then the action plan you can give them, you can write out for them, and they can post it on their refrigerator or put it in a place that they can see regularly so that they remember the steps that they want to take to meet their goal. Here's an example of the short form of the Healthy Living Plan. So you can see it looks a lot like the long form we looked at, but it's very basic and it's a very easy thing to fill out. It's not overwhelming and something that you can both keep a copy of. A basic scrap of paper. Again, just make sure that you write it down. Don't get bogged down in the details. If you have a tool that works for you and your participant, then that's the thing you want to go with.
The menu of choices, these are available for 3 chronic conditions: hypertension, diabetes, as you see here, and asthma. The menu plate shows the healthy lifestyle behavior options, and the left-hand column provides you with some talking points to have the discussion. The HLP worksheet, Healthy Living Plan worksheet, this is another tool, and it works as a guide, a worksheet, or checklist for you to review on the left, and then use the grid on the right to document your SMART goals.
So In the next steps, anyone can be responsible for this. The participant needs to have ownership of some or all of the plan. Accountability is a big part of that success. Knowing that somebody's going to check in on you, or you set up a system where there is a check-in at some point for that accountability. And commit to something reasonable. So again, something achievable that both of you can commit to. And then acknowledge and celebrate it. It's really exciting when people meet their goals. And if you celebrate it, it will give them the energy to keep going. So we're going to talk a little bit about how these tools might look in a participant's life. This first scenario that we'll talk about is about Judy. She's 84, has uncontrolled diabetes, inconsistent with her insulin and medication use. Her doctor has expressed concern about her diabetes and glucose levels. Judy seems moderately concerned about her diabetes when speaking with the SASH staff. She's showing some signs of depression and has expressed a desire to visit her older sister in Maine who is on hospice. But Judy knows she can't get there. So what tools would you use to help Judy better understand her priorities? There's a lot of different ways that you can get to know Judy and what it is that she's looking at. But one nice tool might be the Camden cards. Now this shows the grid of how you can use those Camden cards the most effectively. So what does she want to work on right now? What does she want to work on later? What does she need to work on and doesn't need to work on? So she really wants to get to Maine. She wants to do that right now, and she's going to need money to get to work to go to Maine. And later she might feel like working on her diabetes management and weight loss, but she knows she needs to do it. So she doesn't want to work on med management right now. She can maybe do it later, or it's something she's not very concerned about. And then there's the smoking. So it's clearly something that you as a caregiver or provider might want her to work on, but clearly she's identified that smoking is not her priority. So it's really helpful to know that, because if you tell her what her priorities are, then they're not going to necessarily be met. But one way she might be able to save money is by cutting back on smoking. And so you can talk about money instead of smoking, and that might be a great way for Judy to get to Maine.
So let's talk about Karen. Karen is 74 years old. She's 12 years into living with a chronic inflammatory muscle disease which causes progressive degeneration of muscles in her body. She lives with her husband happily in her senior housing apartment, but she's concerned about her progression of the loss of muscle control and her husband's health. And she's very social, very warm person, unsure of her future, and she's worried about her future as her condition declines. So what tools do you think we could use to help Karen plan for her future? So here is the Healthy Living Plan short form, and what we actually did in reality was we used a piece of paper with the family, with Karen and her husband, started documenting all of their concerns, and then we transferred that information over into this short form Healthy Living Plan for the goals and the things that she really needed to work on. She knew that high blood pressure was a clinical condition she was worried about and she wanted to stay on top of. She wanted to maintain her strength as much as possible, and as I said, she was very social, so social outings and maintaining that were going to be very important to her. So we came up with a plan, some things she was doing presently, and then some things she was going to incrementally work on, such as she was already attending a blood pressure clinic, but she wanted to learn about the DASH eating plan and incorporating that into her diet, and then we would reevaluate her nutrition as well. Social outings was a very interesting conversation with her and her family really stepped up here in helping her get out to the movies, doing some other social outings where she could see like grandkids playing sports and dance recitals, and obviously maximizing her outings when the weather was good, being that we live in Vermont, and just any other opportunities within the apartment complex for her to get out of her apartment and into the community area.
All right, Rose is our third and final scenario. Rose is a healthy and vibrant 90-year-old woman who lives in her own home in the community. She drives, eats well, satisfied with her social life. She says that her life is great and doesn't need any goals. What tools do you use to approach healthy living planning with Rose?
So, Amy, this is a tough one because Rose says she doesn't have any goals, and she's pretty healthy. She's not on medications, and she's independent. As you can see, she drives. What would you suggest?
This is really common. A lot of SASH coordinators talk about how when they work with their participants, they say, I'm good, I don't need any help, and it's really hard to get the conversation started from this point. But I would ask questions like, who is your support person? Do you have an advance directive? Do you get regular medical care? What does that look like? And then the what ifs. What if you can't drive? What if you can't leave the house? What if you can't do the things that keep you active in your social life? What would you do?
So, Amy, do you think an eco map might be something we could use with Rose?
I think that would be a great tool. If she can't automatically come up with the people in her life, if you start to ask her questions about what she does in her daily life, then she can start putting providers in. But I might even do the Camden cards with Rose because it might bring her out and show her, the pictures might trigger her to say, oh, I forgot about this aspect of my life that I might actually like to work on. And it could help prioritize her needs that way.
I agree. I think that would be a really fun tool to use with her. Absolutely.
So after you go through all of these, you follow up.
And so, I think we talked about at the beginning of the presentation that we have the person-centered interview and we have the wellness nurse assessment. It's really key for the SASH coordinator and the wellness nurse to have a conversation after those two large visits where you gain a lot of information occurs. And then you're able to start drafting the healthy living plan with the participant and confirm person-centered goals with that participant and identify dates for follow-up and have the participant write their dates down. As Amy alluded to earlier, you want to make sure that the follow-up is there. So the SASH coordinator and wellness nurse should also put those dates on your individual calendars, and it's important to have a shared calendar, either an electronic shared calendar. If you use Outlook, that's great, or Google Calendar, that's wonderful too, or even just a paper calendar or a notebook that is kept in your office so that you're able to check in with your participant as well. And then again, you're closing that loop and starting again the following year with your SASH reassessments as well, and it's a continuous loop.
When you're doing your healthy living plan with your participants, be creative, be flexible. You're not tied to any one tool. You can use whatever works with that participant. As you get to know people and as you get to do more healthy living plans with your participants, you'll understand the different tools. So practice with all of them. Try a new one each time as you're going along. Keep each other in the SASH admin team informed on how the process is going. Your connection between the coordinator and the nurse is crucial to making sure that the healthy living plans are successful. Follow-up, crucial. Keeping yourself and your participant accountable for the plan that they've made, and then celebrate every success. This is the fun part. This is the joyous part, that you can keep on with creating new plans and new goals, and knowing that they can do it is really powerful.